great group. This is such a good, a diverse group as far as like how many people you're working with, how long you've been with us. So this is this is informal. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions at any time or to chip in with ideas and thoughts. I'm going to pop over to my, Susan, do you have your hand up? Okay, go ahead. You don't have to wait.
Well, I just wanted to offer something that I think has worked as a good idea for the people who don't want to talk. And it's actually twofold. What I've done, I give homework and I have them record online voice recorder. If we learn a page in Standout, we learn everything on the page. We learn how to pronounce it. I do use the phonetic alphabet, but then their homework is to make a recording of it, and it varies. Ideally every day, but usually I just ask them to make 2 recordings because they don't comply with the everyday requirement. But that gets them producing the language with, there may be some self-confidence, but as far as I'm concerned, I think it seems that they got over it quickly. And then I follow some people on YouTube to try to learn some of the things. And I follow Fluent in 3 months, and he just announced he has an AI version of himself where a person can go and speak. I don't know if Literacy Pittsburgh has any resources they want to point us in, but it seems to be one of the things upcoming to where you can have a conversation with a machine and practice your English. And it's cheaper, not than us, but it's cheaper. But and it gives you like flying in a simulator. It gives you practice, realistic practice, so you can kind of build up your confidence. Thank you.
AI is definitely on Literacy Pittsburgh's radar. I have not heard of it being used as a tool like that, but that is a really great idea and something to look into. Thank you for that. I will definitely, because yeah, I mean, I have WhatsApp groups for a lot of different classes and stuff that I manage, and I'm always sending things. So I will look that up as soon as we're done. And or if you, yeah, if you want to pop it into the chat at some point, we can all grab it. I mean, not to give you homework, but and I like the idea of doing the voice notes too, especially for lower level students who are worried about speaking out in class. That's a great idea. Okay, thank you. So yes, everybody is welcome to follow Susan's lead and, share out as you see fit. Can everybody see my screen? Okay. I just put this together mainly to get myself organized. So I kind of divvied up the things that I do and have done that were successful into lower level ELL activities and warm-ups and higher level ELL activities and warm-ups. But as I was going through, I was realizing that pretty much any of this could be adapted for a different level. So with lower level ELLs, I know whenever I meet with a new tutor, I always talk about, the small talk at the beginning of every time you meet. Like I know Diane was talking about, what did you do over the weekend? But like, that's the kind of stuff that they will talk about with their doctor or their child's, teacher or anywhere. We all talk about the weather or we all talk about, what did you do last weekend? Things like that. And, spending 10 minutes at the beginning of each session, just kind of chatting is just as important as the grammar things and the vocabulary that you go over later. And even if it's like you're asking the same question every time, repetition is such a huge part of language learning. So these are 3 different things that I used to do every single class at the beginning of class when I taught the very low level folks. And there are different ways to expand on these or to add to them as they start to get, as things start to seem easy to them, to add another question or, add a asking for more detail type of a thing. So with greetings and introductions, this is a great way to get the students talking to each other. I mean, like a lot of the things that I've done are also just because I get really tired of talking in these classes and I want them to, and I just need a break. So I would go, we'd start off, this is the most basic version. And, I would say, I would read through it myself so that they could hear my cadence, hear, I'd kind of overacted a little bit. Hello, how are you? I'm good. And you? That like that. And then I'd be A, and I'd ask the first person to my right, I'd say, hello, how are you? And they would be B back to me. And then A and the B. And then I'd have them turn to the person next to them, and they would be A, and the person next to them would be B. Then that person would be A, and the next person would be B. And so each person would get to, you know, have this little basic conversation, both parts, with each other. And we'd kind of help each other out, and, it would just be a chain around the table. And then we would go, I mean, this is the most basic. There were times where I would add things like this, like, how was your weekend? My weekend was good. How was yours? Things like that. And that might be it, the dialogues, so that they can see it and get used to answering it, but not having to come up with the answer on their own is a good way to practice these kind of things so that eventually, we get to the point where a student would come in and say, hi, and I'd say, hey, Monzi, how are you? And he'd be like, good, how are you? How was your weekend? So like after, weeks of us asking this on a Tuesday question, having them read, ask each other and stuff, eventually it became a more natural thing for him to just automatically ask me and understand what he was asking me. So that was good. And I mean, you can keep it the same. You can keep it the same 2 or 3 first lines and change things up, things like that. So the next thing is we always did was introduce ourselves. And again, this is the most basic version. So I put this up and then do it myself. My first name is Laurel, my last name is Kane, that kind of stuff. And then we do it one by one. And this is also, I can't say that I created this on my own. I stole this from professional teachers. I mean, when I'm not a full-time teacher, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. Lauren, our head teacher, was using this, so I just grabbed it and saved it and used it, and it was great. So then we would go around and say these things. And again, as time went on and we learned about feelings or about what neighborhood you live in or likes, that was a fun one to add when we learned about, I like movies, I like soccer, I like sunny weather, things like that. I would add a line, I like, and then I have 3 blanks, and then have to tell me 3 things that, tell us 3 things that they like. And we would just go around the room. And so again, it's them talking, not me. So that was another thing. So we would do the dialogue, we would do introducing ourselves. Then we would do calendar. My mom was a preschool teacher for 30 years, and I observed some of her classes one time for a project I was doing. And it's like, I kind of feel like I'm doing like a preschool thing because they would do calendar and weather every day. But these are the things that you need to know and things that people talk about. So, and I definitely had students who didn't know the names of the days of the week or what next month name was, things like that. So I would pull up, this is the most abbreviated version of it. So we would do this, and I'd ask who can tell me what the date is, and we go here. So let me I'll show you a really long version of how you can break down the calendar. And this is, again, from our teachers. So, okay, here we go. I mean, for beginning students, this can be like multiple lessons of breaking down the calendar that can then weave into your everyday conversation. So we go to, okay. So this is an old lesson that, would start off with, let's talk about calendar, days of the week. We'd go through and everybody, I'd say listen and repeat. So it's Sunday, they'd say Sunday, Monday. There was also a goofy days of the week song, if you've ever heard it, that you can find on YouTube. I tried that once or twice and my class wasn't that into it singing, but I know that for other folks, it's been fun. What day? And then you can ask questions. What day of the week is today? How many days are in a week? What day of the week was yesterday? Yesterday was Monday. What day of the week is tomorrow? I mean, you can really break it down. But I guess not surprised. I knew, but, asking the students that they don't, especially the days of the week when you see them spelled and stuff, like, I mean, there are a lot of Americans that don't say Wednesday right or don't spell Wednesday right. That's another thing. We do months. What is this month? And this whole big long thing, like what was last month? What was this? What's next month? It all leads to what I had there. So talking about the calendar and everything, you can build up to that. You can expand it. You could just throw in questions like, hey, Maria, what was yesterday? What was the day? Oh, what was the date? Things like that where you're just kind of bouncing off. I mean, I have it on my phone and things like that. Everybody does, but also people will say, oh, what's the date today? Quite often. Just getting students used to seeing our calendar and the names of our days and our months and things like that is important. Let me just switch back here to, okay. Are you seeing my slideshow again? Yeah, okay. I like the stop sharing, resharing thing. It's like a hard time remembering. So then with weather, I decided to just leave it on this old lesson because it was like a lot. I didn't want to copy and paste it all in. Weather's another fun thing to talk about, and it again can be a whole lesson. It can be a 10-minute lesson every class, or it can come boil down to like, let's do our greetings. What's today's day and date, and what's it like outside? And then we're done, and then move into the standout or whatever else you're looking at. So this is, how's the weather? I never really liked it like that. You can say what's the weather today, things like that. So then this would be another, okay, let's listen and repeat. It's sunny. Or we could say it's cloudy outside. I would change these a lot.
This is still on your previous slide.
Oh,
It didn't switch for us.
dang. I don't know why. Okay, hang on. Thank you for letting me know. Here we go. Okay. I have for folks who may want to try these slides or use these slides, I have a bunch of what we call L0, meaning like beginner slideshows in just a Google Drive folder that I can share too. I actually put them all together for a teacher who was starting with a beginner class like a year ago. So here's the beginning weather, and again, just slides of visuals to kind of help, if English or the Roman alphabet is not something that's their familiar with seeing or reading, and then going through them. You can do repeating these, I say it's icy, you say it's icy. And then you can talk questions and answers. How's the weather? It's, doing these dialogues, it can seem kind of boring, but it gives them the vocabulary and also the tone of the voice, what words to stress, what syllables to stress, like hearing it and repeating it over and over again. It gives them the confidence to then be able to do it without having it given to them. So, all right, let me go back to any questions about those kind of lower level activities, or if anybody has something that they've done with lower level students that works fantastically, feel free to jump in. And now I'll show you. Okay. So with my higher level group, and I've also seen this done with what I would consider a high beginner, low intermediate class, some of these things. And these are things that are easier to adjust. Okay, so warm-up conversation prompts for conversation groups. What I do pretty regularly with my conversation group is that I teach it in a school that has like smart boards, so that does help a lot. So I'll just have a document up behind me when they come in with the date and a warm-up, and I will we do the same thing, like where we chat and say, how was your weekend, blah 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 blah. And then what I do is pair the students up around the table, and I make them get up and move if it's possible for them to pair with somebody who's not from the same country and speaks the same language, so that they don't have the option of switching or translating for each other. And then I say, okay, ask, talk about these things, ask each other these questions. And I say 5 to 8 minutes. I just kind of, if it seems like people are winding down, or if it seems like they've started into great conversations, then I just kind of let it go a little bit longer, because that's what we're there for, is for them to be speaking English. And then I do, okay, like I get everybody's attention back, and then I have them go around and they tell me what their partner told them. So that, it can be a fairly, depending on the topic, it can be a fairly advanced activity, because it forces them to, translate their thoughts on something into English and tell their partner, but then also to actually listen to what the partner says and remember that. I feel like when in a language class, people can sometimes get so wrapped up in what they are saying that they don't actually listen to what other people are saying, because they're like, I don't have to worry about that. But when they have to like present what their partner said, that forces them to remember. And then sometimes they'll be like, wait, what did you say about that? And then they kind of go back and forth. Guillermo, what?
Yeah, I just had a question then. So with my group, I'm trying to do more small group activities. They all speak Spanish. And so I haven't been telling them, don't speak Spanish in your small group. Should I do that? Because I haven't done it up to this point.
Yeah, I will say English only. This is an English class.
Okay.
Like, I make it a fun thing, not a like you're going to be in trouble thing.
Right.
But they'll laugh. They know. Be like,
Okay.
you can speak Spanish outside of class. Let's speak English here. That's it.
Okay.
I know it's kind of an awkward thing. Like, they're adults. You don't want to, scold them or whatever. But yeah, so to say, you have to speak in English. But yeah,
Okay.
and I know there are days where half the class is Turkish, and there's not much I can do. So, okay. So you can go all over the place with topics. And for lower level folks, like high beginners even, say, tell me about your family, tell me about your home country, what's your favorite food? Those are topics that they can talk about, even if it's just kind of very broken English. I also allow them to take notes. Like some of the students are like nervous about remembering and presenting, so they'll take notes about what their partner is saying. I also have had some really great experience with getting into deeper questions, like, why did you come to the United States? What did you think it would be like before you came? Or what are your hopes or goals for the future? And, we can get into like really great conversations that last the whole class then. Yeah, I mean, my advanced class now, it's younger folks, and a lot of them are very politically minded. Like a lot of them are political asylees from the country. So a question I had last class, our warm-up question was, what do you think are the best ways and means to bring about social and political change? And I'll say, this is something that I've been thinking about a lot. Or I'll say, this happened in the United States last week. Do you know about it? No. And maybe we'll talk about it a little bit. And then I'll say, well, so this is what the question's about, or like whenever the mother of the boy from the school shooting from a couple years ago in Michigan was found guilty, we talked about that. And my question was, do you think parents should be held responsible? I mean, this is obviously if you feel like these are okay topics to talk about, but you can get, as deep as you want, or you can be like, what's your favorite song? Why is it your favorite song? Do you have good memories of it? And then you'll think like you'll hear them talking about dancing in middle school or something, and that's fun too. All right, so role play, students love this. And this is a great way for them to practice being somebody else in English, which often makes it builds their confidence because they're acting and not being themselves. Like I've had some really great experiences with giving role play to all levels of students because it's fun for them and they don't have that, oh my God, I'm going to sound stupid, because they're being somebody else. So this allows them to be somebody else. So it's a very similar setup as the warm-up conversations. I've got them out of my bag. We'll do these little part 1 and part 2. I have it I can show you too. So it's the same thing where I pair up students. I try to keep them in with people who don't speak their language if that's possible, give them some time to rehearse it, and then I will have them get up and come to the front or use props and do things like that, which they don't always want to do, but once they do it, they can really get into it. So let me go to, I have some, it's on a Word document and I couldn't get it to copy and paste into PowerPoint in a way that was readable. So this is my most recent one. And again, this is for advanced class. So you could like simplify the language and have the same situations, or, you could do something simpler, like you're meeting a friend for lunch or something, but these are really fun. Especially for whatever reason, if one of the people or both of the people are angry about something, they really can get into it. There's one that so this one down here, you're a very light sleeper and have a long day of work tomorrow. Your downstairs neighbor comes home at 2 a.m. with other people. It's a situation we've all been in, probably on both sides. The other part is you had a long week and it's Friday night, you went out, blah, blah, blah. And then the upstairs neighbor is knocking at your door. I had 2 students get up. The one took her phone, started blasting some music, dancing, with the phone. The other one's knocking on the door outside the classroom. I mean, they got really into it, and they did this after 5 minutes of practice. And they just kept going on and on about like, I have to work. And it was fun. It was really entertaining and fun for all of us. Oh, thank you for sharing. I just saw your message, Susan, about the online voice recorder. That's cool. Thank you. So these are really fun, and I usually will do things like practicing interview stuff for jobs, interaction with a neighbor, or like you can say something like that, or their dog is using your lawn for their toilet and they're not, things like that. But I feel like everybody has had different kind of situations. Doctor's office ones are good. Restaurant ones are fun. And yeah, it's kind of like just any kind of situation you could think of, and it's great. And they talk to each other, they act out, these scenes in front of each other. It's a good time. And this is one of those things too that if you Google, like, you'll find a ton of different topics too, so you don't have to sit there and rack your brain, which for some reason, whenever I am trying to think of things like this, I can't think of anything. So, all right. Go back. I think I just had one more that was about games, which is pretty quick. And I will usually like print out the parts for the role play, and these are like just paper clipped together, and I hand them, and then they can look at them and decide who wants to play what part and things like that together. And again, I can sit there and have a breather while they do it. Okay, so go back. Games, I have to say, there are a lot of teachers who are really great at games. I don't love it because for whatever reason, a lot of the times it requires a lot of work for you, like on the pre-work. But these are some ones that I've done and are pretty standard games, but have gone over really well and have been fun. The forehead detective heads up name game. You can do this on the forehead or on the back, things like that. If it's pairs, you can do like index cards and have a bunch of names, and then they pick and then you pick and you switch and then ask the questions. So the forehead game, you've probably played it before. You get a name and it's on your forehead, and you walk around and you can ask yes or no questions of your fellow classmates. Like, am I a man? Am I dead? Am I a musician? And the person that you're asking answers yes or no. And if the answer is no, then you have to go to the next person. You can change those rules if there's only a couple people. If you're just sitting around a table, you can just kind of you can go around the table and each person will ask a question. But you do things like Taylor Swift, Lionel Messi, Elon Musk. I literally, I think at one point I Googled the most famous people in the world and just did the top 10. Like Volodymyr Zelensky, Gandhi, Dwayne The Rock Johnson is apparently the most famous person in the world. Like stuff like that. And you can do Cleopatra, LeBron James, you can do anything, and it ends up being fun. And because they're guessing, I don't know, things like that. Charades is just charades. We played that a couple times last spring. We were meeting at a park just to kind of get outside, where somebody goes up and acts something out, and whoever guesses it goes up, and that we did it so that like whoever won that one gets to tell the next person what to do. And it's easy and fun. I love it. Bingo, I do with grammar stuff. Like when we were working on what is it, irregular past tense, I did irregular past tense bingo. Again, this is a lot of work. I was not happy that I decided to do it after I was doing it, but again, I'll show you one of my bingo cards here. Here we go. So they each had a bingo card. I had like shuffled these and printed a bunch of them and came up with some sort of bingo chips. Could be pennies, anything. And I would read out the present tense of the verb, and then they would have to find the past tense, which these are all irregular past tense, so no EDs, and put it on there. So they would have to think about it in a pretty quick amount of time. They would have to be like, okay, I said keep. So they would have to think, what's the past tense of keep? Kept. Do I have that? Yes, I do. It was fun. I mean, bingo always ends up being fun because it becomes really competitive. So, all right. Those are things that I have done that have worked for me and surprised me that they worked so well. Another thing I did once that really surprised me how into the students got and how much they spent talking about it was I introduced a poem one time and we read it together. It was something fairly simple. And then it turned out so many of them loved poetry so much that they wanted to bring in their own poems to share. So they each went and found a poem and mostly they did their own translating and brought it to us. I mean, we ended up doing a poem per class for like weeks. And it was great. I was like, wow, I feel like a real teacher. We're doing something so like literary and fun. So all right, well, that's kind of what I had. I hope that it gave you some ideas. Does anybody have anything that they wanted to add or questions to ask? I have let me put in the chat my email. It's just Laurel Kane at literacypittsburgh.org. Oh wait, I just sent that to. Sorry, let's try that again. Okay, I sent that directly to somebody who had messaged me they had to go. I mean, Zoom is forever a learning curve. Okay, so if you have like follow-up questions or you would like to have any of the materials, please feel free to email me. And does anybody, Betsy, you unmuted yourself. You have a question or something to add?
I was just going to ask real quick, I know that a lot of people mention, individuals trying to, wanting to improve their conversation skills, because that is, the back and forth is a difficult thing rather than reading or writing where you have the time that, even though I'm not willing to take on a second student yet, but if somebody wanted to pair me with their student, just to have a half-hour conversation with a different person, in a safe space where it's a fellow tutor, I would be more than willing to do that, because I think it's helpful to have them, talk with other individuals. So I just wanted to make that suggestion.
That's a great idea. I actually had somebody in my conversation class one time be like, could you bring some real Americans that we could talk to? They're like, yeah, but they're talking about the folks at, the grocery store that speak really fast and don't have any patience for listening to them and things like that. So yeah, it's great. I mean, especially hearing another voice and, you know,
I
that
did
kind of
that a couple of times where I invited somebody for the person to interview, and it related to something we did in the book. We did in Grammar and Beyond, there was a lesson and it talked about twins. And my sister-in-law is a twin. So she came on and my student interviewed her, and she had to make the questions in a certain format. And another time with my Japanese student, a friend who volunteers at the food bank came, because we must have been talking about nonprofits or something, I don't know. And she enjoyed it so much, she asked if she could come to the food bank and see it. And so my friend arranged a tour, and she brought about 5 other Japanese people with her. So, I mean, they were really interested.
That's
So,
great. And that's something that if you are working with a student who's like a stay-at-home mom or doesn't need to work for whatever reason, you know, maybe getting like volunteering at the food bank for an hour a week, practicing English would be a good idea too. Guillermo?
Yeah.
I see you have your.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, so I've been, I was given this Compelling American Conversations book.
Mhm.
And I don't know if my group has been working through it from the beginning or the end. And we're reaching the end. And I didn't do any of the beginning pieces. And for me, it's just giving me some structure. So every week there's vocabulary for them to learn, and then I'll bring other stuff sometimes. I mean, I'd be happy to, you know, bring my own stuff the whole time, but I feel like I've never done this and I should follow some kind of curriculum.
Compelling American Conversations is great for that. And that is what we give to folks who are doing the conversation groups as a guide, like how you've been using it. I used that a bit in my class, but my folks were just so chatty. We would get off and be running in another direction.
Okay.
It didn't work for me personally, but I know it's been really successful with other folks. And there are additional versions of that after the one that you have, I believe. So if you are getting to the end, there is more.
Yeah. So I guess I just need to know who to talk to about that, because I'm going to the same room. They don't keep the books. There are a bunch of books there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not aware of any other books.
I can let your program coordinator know, and they'll be
Okay.
able to get some more stuff in there for you. There are some, I don't know if you use like a smart board or a computer in class, or are you guys just sitting there?
I've been using the whiteboard that's in there, and I brought my own markers and everything because the markers were really lousy. But I've been using it a lot, the whiteboard, but that's all I have.
Yeah. I just switched computers and I had it saved on my old computer, so I'd have to get it to you later. There's a couple websites that give you, it's like an article and a topic, and it has vocabulary to start out with, and then it has discussion questions on it. I cannot for the life of me remember what it was, but that's another thing that I've done where I like just printed out the article and the vocabulary and questions and made copies and handed it out, and we did it that way and went around and read it and then talked about it. So I can send you the link to that. I can't remember what it is now, and it's bookmarked on my old computer. So
That would be great. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
absolutely. Make a note. How about anybody else? Questions or comments? Keith, were you?
Yes. I use a book called Clear Speech. This
Yeah.
was given to me almost on day one. I've used this for every level of student I've ever had. And I've taught every standout except for standout 3. And this is wonderful. They like the exercises. They like chanting out the pronunciations. This works really well.
Yeah, that's a great book too. I will occasionally, like, we have digital copies of it, so I'll pull like a lesson and copy it.
I'm
Um,
teaching standout 1 with Casa San Jose now, and it's basically a ritual now at the end of class. They just chant out the different pronunciation exercises.
That's great. Yeah, having a routine like that is huge too, and it helps you also, so that you're not looking at a blank slate for every single every single time you go to plan a class. And if anybody, I can send digital versions of those, clear speech,
What kind of versions?
digital. So like PD, it's like a login, so you can kind of look through it, and then if you feel like it's something you could use for your student or students, we can send you the physical copies too. So,
Oh, so you would send those to us?
yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be great. Okay.
Paula, you'd like to see the clear speech?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds like something that would be helpful, especially for my Asian student, because pronunciation is such a challenge for Asian speakers, and it's anatomical. So it's, she tries and tries, but it's an
Yeah.
uphill struggle. And that's exactly what she wants to work on, is being able to speak more clearly
Yeah.
so people understand her.
We,
That would be helpful.
something that I say a lot when I've worked on pronunciation is that think of it like a muscle, and like you're going to the gym and you're doing reps over and over and over again. You have to build those muscles. It's not something that you can just like decide to do. Like you can't just go and bench press 200 pounds. You have to work up to it over time and stuff. There is a website that I had print out lists of minimal pairs sometimes that we do as a class. And those are like 2 words that sound and look almost exactly the same, but with a one little like tree and 3. And we'll go around the room and each say those, and everybody helps each other, corrects each other. We talk down to like the minute, like where to put your tongue and all that. Helps a lot too. I'll send you the minimal pairs thing.
Laurel, this
Yes.
is Diane. I would also
Hi, Diane.
appreciate the electronic version of the clear speech. I could check that out, please.
I
Yeah.
would think this
And the
is
minimal
also-
pairs. Thank you.
Actually, I have everybody's name. I'll send an email after this. Because we have all of your emails and everything, and just put all those things in it, and then you'll have my email for any kind of follow-up.
And the L0 slides you said you had in a Google Drive?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah, great.
Wonderful, thank you. And I did have a question.
Okay.
We're at the very beginning level. And so the ABCs are not automatic. And she can read English, doesn't know what it means, but whatever education she had in her home country, she learned how to read English. And I can read Spanish.
Yeah.
Can't tell you what everything says, but the ABCs are hard because we've been exchanging addresses and what country are you from, and we're trying to do some dictation and some writing, and she's not, she goes to make an A and can't remember what it looks like. And in Standout Basic, there's one page with the alphabet, but it's not really
Yeah.
So how do you?
There are other books. I had to go through the same thing where I was like, this book is not really enough. Like this book starts like it. I feel like Standout's great, but if you're at the 0 level, it's too advanced even for that, even the basic one. We have a couple other books. Kathy, what's your last name?
Hoedeman, HOEDEMAN.
Okay. Because I had to go on this same hunt when I was teaching, right? We have a couple other books that we don't have tons of copies of, but I can at least send you the digital version. And then if you feel like it can help you, then we can send them that, like, they have sheets in them where, like, remember when we were learning how to write with like the dotted letters that you trace and things like that.
And for some reason, HIJ can't remember them, and I don't want to treat her like she's a kindergartner. And
Yeah,
yet that's
and then when
kind of
you,
where we're starting, so I want to do it correct, respectfully.
and when you
But-
search for that stuff online, you come up with a bunch of like kindergarten stuff, but with like cutesy pictures on it and stuff. You're like, I can't give them this. Yeah, I totally understand.
Okay.
So
And I
I
think
will.
I am going to go to the children's section in the library and look for some books that
Yeah,
maybe.
especially
She does
in,
have a 7-year-old at home, but the 7-year-old has been in school for a year and is speaking English fairly well.
Mhm.
And mom is just not, she just decided, you all know Turkish, I'm going to speak Turkish. And
That
suddenly
is
her
cool.
husband has said, look, you got to do this.
Yeah,
to
that
learn."
is a 100% normal.
It is.
That all the time I hear that.
And she
and-
looked surprised when I said, talk with your children. If
Yeah.
they're speaking English, they'll help you. And
Yeah,
it would be a hard thing, but
some folks, it just takes time. Yeah, some folks just, I don't know.
we'll get there.
Yeah,
As her
Yeah.
confidence grows, but I'm like, you're using these words with me, use them with your children. And
yeah.
she's not there yet. But we'll get there.
Yeah, you will. With that low of a level, it's something that it's people talk about a lot. It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, if you're lucky. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. So, but it happens eventually.
Well, your ideas for alphabet and even and counting is difficult. She can't switch from 10s to 20s to 30s. She can
I
count.
have slide groups with that, with the numbers in the alphabet too, in that folder. So
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome. All right. All right. I will be sending an email to everybody so that you have information and things we talked about. If not today, it'll be by the end of the week for sure. If there's something urgent you need before then, just send me an email. But yeah, this has been great. It's nice to see your faces and hear your ideas and everything. So thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.